Besides that the world is crumbling and falling apart, which is pretty obvious, the only way out of it is only the coming of Mashiach. My message is not only for Jews, my message is for everybody, because Jews and non-Jews are in the same boat. The redemption is for the Jews and non-Jews alike. The Mashiach is not a Jewish Mashiach, he is, but it's not for the Jews, it's worldwide, global, it's for the entire mankind. The Gentiles who are worthy and have the merit will be part of the redemption. We're in it together. So it's not a Jewish message, it's a message for everybody, which is very important, because a lot of people think this whole headache is just for the Jews, but what about other 7 billion people? So it's for everybody. So really there's no way out of the quicksand that we're in. People think, hey, in a year, what do you think is going to happen in a year? You think the corona is just going to disappear, the vaccines are going to wear off, and we're going to back to normal? If you're living in that type of illusion, then stop believing that, because it's going to get worse. Don't think we're ever going back to the pre-corona situation or status. It's never coming back. We're going to be stuck with it till Mashiach comes. And it's going to become worse and worse, because every time will come a new variant and a new headache and a new nonsense, which is the best news that we can get, because it means that the only direction we're going in a one-way street is towards the redemption. Well, I don't want to go back to how it was. You want to go back to how it was? What was good was how it was. Everything was bad. We want to go towards the redemption. And the redemption is good. And the process of the redemption is compared to a woman giving labor from Tafshin, which was 1939, which symbolically the Holocaust started, but that's what the Zohar calculates, that in Tafshin, the date that it gives, which is in our, and not our, but the Georgian calendar is 1939, we saw a huge shift in the world. That's when the Zohar says that the pregnancy started. And then we go through 72 years of the pregnancy. And pregnancy, you know, first 3 months the woman throws up and nauseous and not so easy. Usually pregnancies are not so easy. And then of course the third trimester is hard. But once the woman goes into labor, that's it. It goes into labor. It's painful. It's hard. And of course, once the woman is in labor, then the pain increases and increases and increases till it's almost impossible, and then the baby comes out. And that's what our sages compare the coming of Mashiach. So we're now already in the labor process, where the pain is going to become stronger and stronger. And the ones of you who don't know, then a woman that goes in labor, first she gets contractions every 2-3 hours, and then every 1 hour, and then every 20 minutes, and then every minute, and then the contractions slowly become stronger and stronger. But the end result is the birth of a child. So we're going through the same thing. This is the analogy that our sages give. So really the entire situation is all great news, meaning that the Mashiach is coming. But now, of course, comes the big question. So when is he coming? Is he coming tonight? Is he coming tomorrow? When do you think Mashiach is coming? Is this over anytime soon? Is this over in a month? Are we going to be dealing with this now for another 10 years? I'm just going to give you my opinion, and I'm going to tell you why I'm giving that opinion. My opinion is that we're not going to get rid of this so fast. So if you're looking at my positive, optimistic Alon, then Mashiach, I hope, would come tonight and finish the whole thing. But my realistic point of view is that it's not coming anytime soon. It's going to take a long while till Hashem is going to squeeze the living life out of us, till Mashiach is going to come. What am I basing it on? From the Talmud, Tractate Sanhedrin, page Tzadik Zayin, 97. I'm just going to read part of it. A lot of information about before the coming of Mashiach, the Gog Magog war, and many other things can be found in Tractate Sanhedrin in pages 90s and on. I'm going to focus on page 97. And it gives us a clear view what is going to precede the 7 years before Mashiach comes. And the Talmud is saying there very clearly that the son of David, Mashiach ben David, is going to come at the end of a sabbatical cycle, which will fall on a Jubilee year. Now really we don't know, we lost count of the Yovel. Nobody can come and tell you when is the Yovel is going to happen. Yovel is the Jubilee year, the 50th year. But according to a lot of the sources that we have, in 7 years is going to be the Yovel. Now we just started a sabbatical cycle. We're in a sabbatical year, in Shnat Shemitah. So we're not really starting, one can say, are we starting or are we finishing? Because it's the 7th year. The Shemitah is the 7th year. So really we're starting the cycle next year. Either way you're looking at it, we're going to start a cycle of Shemitah. Shemitah means sabbatical year, 7 years, 6 years we work the land, and so forth. The 7th year, we don't work the land, which is corresponding to the 7 days of creation, which is really 6 days of creation. And then on the 7th day was the Shabbat. Same thing with the world. 6,000 years the world will exist, and the 7,000 year will be a day of Shabbat. The cycle world is going to be 6,000 years, and then the last 1,000 years, we're still going to be here, but in a state of Shabbat. So really, when we want to know what's coming, let's see what the text says. And then we'll get a pretty clear picture that, according to my opinion, and it's not a prediction, I'm just interpreting what I read, is that we're going into a 7-year roller coaster of madness, that what you're seeing now is just the beginning. And after the 7 year of craziness, madness, and completely upside down, well, then Mashiach is going to come. And again, I could be wrong. I'm not giving here any prediction. I'm just telling you what is the text saying. I will read, translate, explain, and so forth. And it's talking about, in the end of page 96b, about the fact that Hashem is going to rebuild the falling sukkah of David, and it's talking about that. So I'm just going to read one sentence back. It says, "Bayom hahu hakim et sukkah David hanofelet." In that day, in most of the references where you read about Bayom hahu, in that day, it's talking about the day of the redemption. So Hashem is going to, the translation, on that day I will establish the tabernacle of David that is fallen. Which is because Malchut be David, the kingship, the rulership of David, doesn't exist. So in the day Mashiach comes, that's the day that Hashem will re-establish it. And it says as follows, and it's very, very interesting because this was written, whether it was composed or written or was said, but I would say it goes back about 2,000 years. And it says what's going to happen before Mashiach comes. And it's unbelievable, but a lot of people might brush it off, but I find it fascinating. Because it says as follows, Dor sheben David ba, in the generation that the son of David, which is referring to Mashiach, is going to come, Talmidei chachamim mitma'atim. Translation, in the generation in which Mashiach comes, Torah scholars decreases. And as we saw, we're losing all the major rabbis of our generation. How many rabbis we have left? Barely any. V'hashar einehem kalot beyagon. And the rest of the people, their eyes fail with sorrow and grief. Now, maybe it doesn't apply to you, but many people who were sitting close to a great rabbi, and then that rabbi passed away from the world, they don't know how to deal without their leader. It doesn't matter which group it is, but look at how many great leaders of groups, I'm talking about religious groups, died, and there's no real leader to them. And I know there's going to be a lot of discrepancies, but look, for example, at the Lubavitch movement. The Lubavitch Rebbe passed away, whatever, it's 20 plus years ago. There's no successor. There's no next Lubavitch Rebbe. Now, of course, a lot of the Lubavitchers says, no, he's alive, and we're not going to get into that issue right now. It's irrelevant right now. But there's no other leader. Of course, if you speak to a Lubavitchers, they tell you, no, the Rebbe is alive, and he's leading us. Yeah, but I'm talking about somebody physical that came in and took his place. And that's not only in Lubavitch, it's in many things. So look in the Sephardi, Rav Avadia Yosef also died a few years ago. Is there a next leader? Somebody came instead of him? No? Okay, so the son became the chief rabbi of Israel. But that's a political job. That's a job from the government. That's not a spiritual leader. Who's the one who came instead of Rav Avadia Yosef? So, and that's just one example. And of course, people can find many ways to argue with what I say. I'm telling you what I see. It says here very clearly that the scholars will slowly decrease, and the rest of the people, their eyes fail with sorrow and grief. I think almost any person in our generation has grief for whatever, and their eyes. You look at people's faces. Most people are behind the face. They might hide behind a fake smile. There's a lot of sorrow and a lot of grief. Then it continues in saying, "V'tzarot rabot v'gzerot kashot mitchadshot." Let's translate it. And troubles increase, and the harsh decrees will be introduced before the first passes, the second quickly comes. I can say that in each and every one of us, you can relate with what it says here. Grief, sorrow, tzarot rabot v'gzerot kashot mitchadshot, every day another problem comes up. Now even if it's not in a global level, it's in your own personal life. People get evicted from their house, losing their job, losing their chas v'shalom loved ones, sicknesses, diseases, all sorts of problems. So here it says tsarot rabot. The translation, I don't like the translation, troubles. But okay, fine, we'll go with this translation. Gzerot kashot, and harsh decrees. How many decrees, harsh decrees are you affected from? And how is he saying it here? In a very poetic way. Before the first one ends, the second one already started. So if you're looking at it in a global way, okay, so there are obviously many harsh decrees. But even look at it in your own personal life. Now, most people, they smile, Baruch Hashem. They look a little bit hopeful, and but people, it's late at night when you turn the light off and you put the blanket over your head. Everybody's dealing with a lot of problems. And your problems are worse than my problems. But everybody has problems. I mean, to me, my problems are worse than your problems. But that's the reality. I don't know anybody right now that says, everything's amazing. Everything is... I mean, if you are like that, then either you have an amazing attitude to life, or you're in denial. But the sad reality is that we have a lot of problems. Tanu Ramanan, our sages have taught, Shavua sheben David ba. Interestingly, it says in the week that the Mashiach comes. But our commentary says Shavua is a week, means a cycle of 7, means at the 7th year of a sabbatical cycle. Now it comes and it says very interestingly, Bashana Rishona, so pay attention, because he says here at the end, on the 7th day, or 7th year, which means it has to be 6 years preceding it, right? So in the first year, Mitkayem Mikraze. It's quoting a verse from the book of Amos, chapter 4, verse 7, Vehimtarti al ir achat ve'al ir achat lo amtir. Translation, and I will cause it to rain upon one city and cause it not to rain upon another city. This is what's going to happen in the first year. Pay attention, because this is the 7-year cycle that I'm talking about. What does it mean that on one city will be rain, on the other one will not be rain? The time of the Talmud, no water, no crops. No crops, no food. Now, there's not much of that issue. But meaning that on one city will get rain and the other, it means that in one place will be good, in another place will be bad. And that can be explained, in a global level, that in this city there's a lot of bad decrees, in this city not, or in this family, or in this community, or in this country. Next, this is the first year. Shniya, second year, chitzei ra'av mishtalchim. The arrows, let's see what the translation here says. I'll give you my, quick. Arrows of famine will be shot. So expect a very severe famine. Now, if you read through the lines, if you're aware what's going on, you see how they're already preparing us for the famine. So it says here, in the second year, chitzei ra'av mishtalchim. It's going to start getting the arrows. Why is it saying chitzei ra'av? It's not going to come in one shot. It's going to be like an arrow. Suddenly a week, no milk. Another week, boom, no butter. The next week, no water. Shlishit, in the third year, Ra'av Gadol, huge famine. That's what they're planning. You can read it straight out on any website that they're telling you what they're planning the famine in the world. Translation, third, there will be a great famine, and what's going to be the result? Umetim anashim v'nashim v'taf. Many people will die, women, men, children. Chasidim v'anshei ma'aseh v'torah mishtakachat. So in the third year, it's divided in two. Great famine and a lot of death, chas v'shalom. And then the pious men and men of action means people who follow the Torah and the mitzvot, will die, and the Torah is forgotten. Why? By those who study it, because there's going to be deaths and famine and shortages of everything. Who's going to have time or the energy to learn Torah? So on one side we have a severe famine, no food, and as a result from that, many, many deaths. And after that, because so much death, then the Torah is going to start diminishing, and the Torah is the power of the world. On the fourth year, Sova, Veino Sova. Translation, there will be plenty, but not plenty. What? So there's going to be a lot, but you're not going to get nothing out of it. It's going to be another way of deception. So again, Sova, Veino Sova. Chamishit, in the fifth year, Sova Gadol, V'ochlim, V'shotim, V'smechim, V'torah chozeret lelomdea. On the fifth year, there's going to be great plenty, and everybody will eat and drink and rejoice, blah, 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 and the Torah will return to those who study it. So, kind of looks like good news in the fifth year. Now, on the sixth year, Bashishit Kolot, on the sixth year, heavenly voices will be heard. That's why a lot of people are saying that they're hearing the blowing of the shofarot, and around the world, people are recording all these sounds. But the voices means that the announcements of the coming of Mashiach. Uva Shavit, in the 7th year, Milchamot. On the 7th year, there's going to be the big war, what our sages call Gog uMagog. Uva Motzei Shavit ben David ba. And at the end of the 7th year, the son of David will come.